listening to Brave the Basement.
Hello, ghouls, and welcome to Brave the Basement. I'm your host, the Ghoul That Rules.
I'm your co-host, Black One Jack 2.
So if you enjoy getting a little scared, ghost stories, haunted houses, believer in the supernatural, or maybe even a skeptic want to look at things from a different perspective, then this is the show for you. Today is our 20th episode celebration. Yours actually sounds halfway decent.
I know! I was shocked!
Mine's... So we went to the Dollar Tree, and I spent $1 on like 8 of these things. Wasn't it 8 or something like that?
It's 8 for 1.
Yeah, 8 for 1. And as soon as we got out of the store, we're laughing like a bunch of little kids, and we open up the package, and we blow it, and it's like the worst party horn in the entire world.
It's like one of those whistles for like refs. I was like, maybe it was like a ref thing because it was like a sports.
So today we got a small game between me and Black One Jack 2. Every time that I say 20th episode celebration, we got to blow the party horns for our 20th episode celebration. He was already ready for it.
I beat you. So 1-0.
Okay, so today's episode will be about Munchkin Land, and I'm not talking about the movie Wizard of Oz. But before we get into that, I promised everybody that on our 20th episode celebration that we would have some announcements.
Whoa, woohoo.
So since this is the 20th episode celebration, we got some announcements for our 20th episode celebration. First announcement is this is the season finale of Brave the Basement. Not the series finale, but the season finale. So what we're going to do is after this is released, we're going to take a couple weeks off. And we're going to come back in about 2 weeks, starting with Season 2, Episode 1. So to send off our 20th episode celebration, all we wanted to tell you was, at the start of Season 2, I almost said 1. At the start of Season 2, we have brand new entrance music, brand new logo coming up, and there's a couple other things going on for Brave the Basement. Something else that we're going to do, if you visit bravethebasement.weebly.com, you'll notice that we have a merch store. And on that merch store is all Brave the Basement apparel, including my favorite, the coffee mug. It says Brave the Basement Ghoul. You can get yours today at bravethebasement.weebly.com. But also, we will be adding Black One Jack 2 streaming merch to that store, and also some Black One Jack 2 Brave the Basement apparel. And this is all due to our 20th celebration episode.
I was going to blow it anyways.
I know you was.
You said Black One Jack 2 merch. I was like,
I wasn't even going to say 20th episode celebration. But you started raising the party horn ready to go.
can we just take a moment and just laugh at these ridiculous things?
Well, yours sounds halfway decent. Mine sounds silly. But anyway, do not go to Dollar Tree to get party horns, just so you know.
No, or if you do, don't buy the $1 ones.
Yeah, don't buy the dollar ones at the Dollar Tree. So just to recap real quick, this is the season finale. We're going to come back in 2 weeks, starting with Season 2, Episode 1. Brand new logo, brand new entrance music, outro music. We're going to update our store to include Black One Jack 2. So be sure to check all that out. It's going to be real exciting. So I'm going to put Black Jack on the spot here. Should we give everyone a sneak peek at the new entrance music, or should we make them wait 2 whole weeks?
We got to show them a sneak. We got to.
So, all right, because of Blackjack, and this is our 20th episode celebration, we're going to go ahead and give you a sneak peek at the new entrance music, but you will have to wait to see the new logo.
Ha ha.
So without any further ado, here is the new intro music. And so there it was, the season 2 intro. And we need to give a shout out to our personal composer. He is the musical ghoul. He did season 1 intro. The only thing I changed on the intro for season 1 was I did the voiceover at the end where I say, "You're listening to Brave the Basement." And now I happen to be a musician myself, and I'm a heavy metal guitarist, and I didn't think heavy metal would fit the podcast. So I speak about the musical ghoul on the website and talk about how he's a music major. So obviously the perfect person to go to write this intro music for us. So thanks, Musical Ghoul, for hooking us up with the new intro for season 2.
I mean, he did a fantastic job with season 1, and then did a great, even better job. I love the music on the season 2's music.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it's about time we get into some actual paranormal stuff, which is what our listeners come for. And like I said, this we're talking about Munchkin Land here on our 20th episode celebration. And so Munchkin Land, like I said, is not from the movie The Wizard of Oz. So I'm sure people are reading the headline like, what are they going to talk about The Wizard of Oz for? So I'm going to read you from a website here, because Munchkin Land is in Michigan. And this is from the website 99wfmk.com. Titled Haunted Michigan, The Child Ghost of Munchkin Land Cemetery by John Robertson, and this was updated in April 30th of 2020, so it's at least updated fairly recently. The Franklin Church was constructed in 1855, and it still stands to this day. The church and its accompanying cemetery can be found at the junction of Franklin Brush Lake Road and Frost Road, out in the countryside just east of Booth Lake and Curtis Lake. It's just north of Niles. People who have gone there tell others not to go alone, as cell phones have a habit of not working in that area. The graveyard has been called Frost Cemetery, Franklin Church Cemetery, and Munchkin Land. The nickname Munchkin Land is probably the most curious name this place has. Why is it called Munchkin Land? Because of the many children's spirits that have been seen amongst the tombstones. The legend began in late 1800s, says the church pastor murdered 2 small girls and buried them in the woods behind the church. Time went by and the crime went unsolved, until little by little, members of the congregation started putting together 2 and 2 and figured out the truth. Realizing his crime had been discovered, the pastor went up to the church bell tower and hung himself. After a search that lasted a few days, his body was finally discovered. There had been other children murders in the area, and the townspeople assumed they were also committed by the pastor. Since then, there have been numerous sightings of childlike ghosts through the woods and hiding around old gravestones. The eerie sounds of children giggling and little girls whispering have been heard coming from inside the cemetery grounds. There is also a tombstone that glows a faint green color at night. If you visit Munchkin Land, be respectful, don't vandalize, litter, or be noisy and obnoxious. Obey any no trespassing signs that may be posted.
Totally not following the red brick road.
Yeah, so this is not off to see the wizard we go here. So just to recap, the legend behind this. In the late 1800s, a pastor of the church was murdering children and burying them out in the woods. About the time that people started figuring out what was happening, the preacher hung himself from the bell tower, and now they believe that the cemetery is haunted by the ghosts of the children that he killed.
I always have a question, okay? So, you know how the pastor kills himself? What happens to him?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
I mean, if all the ghosts are still, roaming around in the cemetery, what happens to him?
I don't know. maybe his ghost is in the cemetery as well. So, to cap off this topic today, I have some ghoul mail with someone's experience at Munchkin Land.
Ghoul mail from the Gmail.
All right, this comes from one of the ghouls out there, submitted this story, and I will post it on the website as well, so you can check it out. And this is about Munchkin Land. When I was about 16 or 17, some of my buddies and I were out riding around looking for something to do. One of my friends suggested we go to Munchkin Land to see if everything we heard while we were growing up was true. The legend is that the preacher of the church was doing something with the kids and killing them. When the congregation found out, the preacher hung himself in the bell tower. I was a bit apprehensive at first, but this was due to the fact that I have a few generations of my family buried in that cemetery. You know, like any other ghost story or legend, growing up, we all heard about it. So as we were pulling up, we parked in front of the gate on the road and headed in, walking past the old church. In of itself, the place is spooky enough. Supposedly, there's a headstone that glows amongst other things, but we were there looking for the headstone that was glowing. As we were looking for the headstone, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Looking up, I couldn't believe what I saw. Children were staring at us from the trees. I quickly turned to my friends, and I could see it written all over their faces that they were also seeing what I was. So here we are, watching these kids stare back at us from the trees. We suddenly realized that we could see through them, and that they were partially transparent. As we stood there, they started moving closer into the cemetery. Everyone was starting to get a little edgy, as you could imagine. Just then, we noticed a large shadow moving along the back of the church. It was shaped kind of like a man, but changing and morphing its shape as it went. We were looking around for what was casting the shadow on the church. It came to the corner of the church, and that's when it crossed to one of the headstones. We then realized it wasn't something casting a shadow on the church. It was moving from gravestone to gravestone on the taller stones. We took off running as fast as we could to the gate, heading for the car. We got in the car just as I started to pull off. This thing come through the gate and was standing in the road behind the car as we sped off. I never went back there again at night. I still go back there from time to time. As I said, I have family buried there. This is my story. Believe what you will. But I know none of us will ever forget that night.
Okay, I have one question. Do you think that was the pastor or preacher?
That is a very good question, Blackjack. So he did say that they seen the children and they noticed that they were ghostly transparent. And this was more of a shadowy figure that they also seen that was kind of moving from stone to stone. So that is a very good question. I didn't think about that when you originally asked the question before I read the email out loud. And yeah, it very well could be.
I mean, so I wonder, what do you even think about seeing all these kids just look at you, and then I wonder what this crosses through your mind.
Oh my God, there's a ghost. That's probably what they're thinking.
Should I run?
And so what's really interesting is they say that there's a tombstone that glows, and if you listen to the website that I was reading from earlier, they also briefly mentioned this tombstone. And I don't know if this glowing tombstone is a paranormal thing or if it's a light that's on there that's just freaking people out and they come to check it out. But that's what he said their original intent was, to find this headstone. And they didn't find the headstone. Instead, they found some ghost children and some shadowy figure morphing into the shape of the man. But I think you might be right. I think you might be onto something. That very well could be that pastor.
Do we know what the name of the preacher was?
It didn't say on that website. We could do more research. I'm sure the information's out there.
I really would like to know if the preacher was buried out there. I mean, it would be really creepy if the glowing one was the preacher's tombstone.
Well, what's fortunate, I do have my cell phone on me. We can Google that real quick. So the editing of this little section might sound a little goofy because I'm going to stop recording real quick, and we're going to Google this because that is a good question. So we will be right. Well, for our listeners, it's going to sound like a whole
Couple seconds.
Yeah, a couple seconds.
Like...
Just know it's a couple minutes. We're just having a good time here on our 20th episode celebration.
So where's the fish?
Hey, I said no fish this episode.
No, that is right.
Okay, hold on. Wait, everyone's waiting to hear about this preacher. So let's check into this preacher. We'll be right back with you. On the magic of editing podcast. It took me a couple minutes, but I found it for you in only a couple seconds. This is what I found. I didn't find anything about where he's buried, but it says the church was organized by members of the United Brethren denomination in 1854, a year before the church building was constructed. In 1880, services were held every 2 weeks by a circuit rider, Reverend J.H. Patay. So that's all the information I was able to find on the preacher. So we're assuming that this is the guy who done this. So very creepy place. It is up in Michigan. They said it's just north of Niles, Michigan. So if you're brave enough to go ahead and look up how to get there. And if anything fun happens, shoot us an email on the Gmail. We would love to put it on the website and cover it on Season 2.
I got a little mission for the ghouls out there in Michigan that will go to this place. If you guys can go check out this tombstone, and if you can get us the name and write it down, all your experiences, that would be great, guys.
Okay, so sadly, but happily all at the same time, this brings us to the end of Season 1 for Brave the Basement. And this concludes our 20th episode celebration. So I hope you enjoyed our silliness today. We did want to celebrate this because we've been doing 20 straight weeks since this launched. And the very end of October. This launched the same week as Halloween in October 2020. And like I said, we're going to take 2 weeks off. And we're going to come back with Season 2, Episode 1 of Brave the Basement. If you would like to become a Brave the Basement ghoul, be sure to share this show on social media. Go to bravethebasement.weebly.com and sign up for our newsletter to get all the latest news and updates when each episode has been posted. If you have a ghost story you would like to share with us, you could reach us at bravethebasement@gmail.com. Your story could make it on the show and be featured on the website. You can also submit your story on Reddit under the subreddit Brave the Basement or in the YouTube comment section. If you have an eerie ghost photo you would like to share, please email us and include a description, and your photo could be added to our photo gallery. And that brings us to the end. We hope that we brought you just a little fright. And remember, when you were up late at night and you hear something in the other room that just doesn't seem right, it's okay if you need to turn on a light to protect yourself from things that go bump in the night. And for our 20th episode celebration, we would just want to thank all the ghouls out there for listening and bringing us to this point. And I'm your host, the Ghoul That Rules.
And I'm your co-host, Black One Jack 2.
And until 2 weeks from now, until next time, guys.